student journalists are more important than ever is because we need to stoke in young people an enthusiasm for truth and for good reporting.
Student journalists are journalists, period. They deserve the same access as any other reporter to legal advice and guidance, and that's why Knight is proud to support the Student Press Law Center as it celebrates its 50th anniversary and readies itself to meet the needs of student journalists for the next 50 years.
I'm Nicholas Kristof. I'm a columnist at the New York Times, and I'm here partly because I originally started out as a journalist at Yamhill Carleton High School in rural Yamhill, Oregon. It's kind of scary and a little overwhelming to be in a little town in the middle of nowhere where all the community mores really are about deference to the principal. We were censored, we protested the censorship, and then the protests were censored. The paper was shut down, and it felt very lonely. Who do you call when you're in rural Oregon and your newspaper is shut down at your school? Well, you call the Student Press Law Center. It was so helpful to have somebody at the other end of the line who knew about student press issues, and not only about the legal situation, but also just to provide a certain amount of moral support. You know, that you're not crazy, that students can have useful contributions.
People say, how do we, stop censorship? The number one thing is just do good journalism. If you're doing good journalism, if you're putting out work that you are proud to stand up and defend in a public way, there are going to be people that are going to be there to support you along the way.
I got arrested in May while covering a protest on Dartmouth's campus.
What is it like to be a student journalist who all of a sudden is, instead of covering other people being arrested, you're the one who is being grabbed? Tell me about that experience.
The state troopers just grabbed my photographer out of the crowd, and when I told them that she was a photographer and worked for the paper and they couldn't take her, they took me too. So it was a very dramatic experience, and it really underscored for me that there is a lot of disrespect for student journalists. And I was just really lost. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't sleeping for the week between getting arrested and the prosecutor dropping my charges. And SPLC was really the biggest part of this outpouring of support that we saw. After I spoke to SPLC, I was basically able to sleep again at night. They brought me a lot of solace when they gave me guidance about how I could get my charges dropped and expunged from my record. I was able to speak to someone who actually knew what was going on, and, maybe there was a future for me.
I'm here today to speak on behalf of the work of the Columbia Daily Spectator, and specifically about how we covered the campus protest. When we say student journalists are journalists, we say you have the same level of responsibility and therefore accountability that an adult performing this job, for a salary has. We dealt with a lot of barriers, particularly when the police got involved, and specifically the New York Police Department, in which there was a very little acknowledgement of our legitimacy as journalists. Our role was so crucial in capturing the upheaval that was happening at Columbia and how it was shaping national political discourse.
Student journalists, like the theme of tonight, have been at the forefront of every social, every political movement that's been out there. I can't emphasize enough how important that work that SPLC is doing is for student journalists. SPLC has been there for us. At a time when censorship is on the rise across schools, disinformation continues to proliferate our social media platforms, and world press freedom is under threat. Please join me in supporting the Student Press Law Center, either through donations, volunteering your time, spreading the word. I just know how important any legal hotline call can be, any educational resource can be, any training can be. It helps every student journalist out there.
Helping student journalists is a true privilege. As you can see, they're fearless in their pursuit of truth and transparency, and it's just a tremendous honor for SPLC to be able to provide them the legal support and guidance they need to do this really important work.